Transform your product idea into a business reality. My name is Callie Keene, and this is End Hype. Today, we're going to talk about something I've put a lot of thought into, and it's something that we're incorporating more and more into the program, into the way I discuss product development with clients, the way that we go about developing our own business processes as well. What I want to talk about is the foundation of how we think and what we do, and why developing a product without worrying about that foundation, without building that proper foundation, why products will inevitably fail, why every idea that you put into a system will fail without addressing these foundational topics. So this is slightly abstract, but we're going to break it down, and I hope this will make a little bit more sense as I go through it. But the time-old analogy for this is to build your house on sand, right? You could build the nicest house that you want, but it's just going to fall into the sand. And that's kind of what people do with products, is that they build amazing products, and then they realize that they don't have access to be able to sell them. And then even if they have access to sell them, they don't really understand how to run a business or how to make business decisions because they lack foundational awareness. They lack some problem-solving skills that are on that business layer, right? So to use a software metaphor that I talk about pretty frequently, we talk about your mental programming, but we talk about an operating system. So your business and the way that you think, people have installed bad software, right? So you're running an algorithm. This is how product development works. I'm going to use this little algorithm that is how I think that this thing works. So I filter all of my ideas through this little mental cognition program that I've created. This is how marketing works, or this is why money is bad, or this is how people prototype things. So when I see an opportunity, I filter it through these stages as I imagine them to be. And that influences how you can be successful or not be successful. So let's talk about these stages, and then we can understand why this will allow you to find good product ideas. And when you're able to place them inside of this strong foundation, almost any idea can be successful. We've talked about this before, but fidget spinners made billions of dollars, and they're a fundamentally, objectively bad idea. Like they have very low utility. They're not, there's nothing particularly great about them, but people love them, and the market was ready for them. There's a lot of the alignment features that we look for. The people that made money on them, they had these things. They had these foundational aspects in place. But if you have these pieces in place, really any opportunity that you run across has a exponentially higher chance of success. So the first piece of this, and we talk about this immediately day one, we call it break assumptions in Innovate, but it's just to create some level of awareness. Generally, people come to me, they come to Red Blue Collective because they have a product idea. They haven't really thought about why they should pursue, like by asking why a bunch of times. They could say, like, who do I want to be, right? We break it down all the way to your personal goals and say, like, I want to become this person, this type of person. I want this because I want this level of self-actualization. I want this level of financial freedom. I want this level of recognition from my community or from my mom. Or I want these things. These are my goals, and this is how I see myself right now. And if people have a negative identity, like I'm not a business guy, like I'm an idea guy, I'm not a doing guy, you can't get past this. So if you have a product idea, you can't make it successful because the person said, basically, I'm not a successful person. They've created that barrier, and no matter what services that I provide. I could lay it all out. I could give them a turnkey product. They couldn't be successful because they've created a negative identity of who they are. Their belief has limited them, and they're not going to get past it. So we call this break assumptions. People have this from a lot of different places. So, school will teach you that life works a certain way, right? That there's somebody's going to tell you the answers. You have to remember the answers, and then there'll be a test on those questions or some variation of them. Business doesn't work like that. Being an employee and bringing that employee mindset means that somebody else will set the pace. They'll set the rewards and recognition system. Business doesn't work like that. So if we bring those identities of who we think that we are or who we have been in the past into business, we're guaranteed failure. And this seems very abstract, but it is easily one of the number one things that I see people fail. Like people that raise money and create a product, the one reason they fail is because they fail to have product market fit, connect with customers that actually want the thing that they have created. But the number one reason why all entrepreneurs fail is because they have decided to fail. Like their personal identity of who they are, their self-awareness of who they want to be and how they think limits them from being successful, right? They cannot work with other people, right? They cannot give up what their control over an idea will be. They can't delegate. They say, I'm not an X person. I'm not a marketing guy. I don't use social media, so I can't do any of that marketing stuff. And it's like, well, I don't see how that's going to help you in a business. Like if you personally don't like social media, it has zero relevance whether your business should use it or not. You don't have to personally use it, but your business probably should. So that's that first layer is like being aware of yourself, of your own identity, what you actually want. And then we build on that, because the next is understanding how to think critically. And this is like building these skills, building these discipline skills. So when we're looking at the program and it says, here's the pace for the program, life happens. So people might fall behind, they might jump ahead. But if people fall behind, they usually just fall more and more behind, right? Or that's a pattern in their life, right? But one of the reasons that I like working with engineers, and we work so well, is that they've at least been taught to think critically. So their ability to think and solve problems, very high. The hurdle that we have is for them to see solutions instead of seeing problems. They're very good at problem solving. So then everything looks like it's a problem, so we can solve it, right? And we can do that infinitely. But critical thinking and problem solving are generally pretty good. But when we look at these we're looking at kind of personal discipline systems. So things like planning, scheduling, how to take a large project and take it into little pieces, how to delegate those, how to set a timetable. So we look at that in product roadmaps. We look at that as our launch plans. We look at that in when we see our business goals, reverse engineering those business goals and saying, hey, in 5 years, remember my mental awareness thing? I said, in 5 years, I want to work less hours so I can help raise my kids, but I want to have the financial freedom to have 2x the income that I currently make as an employee. So I want to work about 30 hours a week, but be able to travel a couple weeks a year. I want to be able to take off to see that dance recital, and I want to make $368,000. You're like, okay, well, those are all pretty specific goals. Let's shore them up a little bit. Let's understand, do you really want those? That's the next level self-awareness thing. And then let's see if you have the mental cognition to build a plan that will do that, delegate the responsibilities, build a team to do it, engage with them, and figure out this is the biggest piece. This is the piece that's actually going to move me forward today. This is the piece that's going to move me forward this week or this month, right? So it's very comforting to work on, say, a technical task and shut ourselves off to the world and say, I am really good at this. I'm going to just keep working on this thing that I like and I'm really good at. I'm in my comfort zone. And then you can realize, a couple months later, that doesn't push your business forward. It doesn't actually get you where you need to go. You just felt like you were working. So the ability to have the discipline and the skills is at that second layer. So we have awareness, and then we have the discipline and skill layer. So at our next level, we have business knowledge, right? So there is a very good amount of entrepreneurs that learn business knowledge kind of on the fly. And there's tons of information that you can go out and you can go on Udemy and you can get, hey, here's an MBA in a box, right? And here's 140 hours of information on how to do all those things, right? Like accounting and bookkeeping and how to open a business and how to do trademarks and how to do this and how to do that. But I am generally surprised by people that invest hundreds of thousands of dollars into a product, years of effort, and they've spent zero time understanding how a business works. And what happens is if you do have a product, and let's say that you had your marketing in line and you have your product ready to go, what bucket is it going to go into? It's going to go into your business. And if you don't know how to run a business, you don't know how to do silly compliance things like HR or safety, you don't know how to do your warehousing and inventory, all the little pieces of a business. Imagine that little piece of opportunity, it's just going right in the trash can, right? You can learn a certain amount on the fly, but we need to build that layer as soon as we can of like how a business works. Once you know how a business works, it's also going to inform all your other decisions, right? You're going to say it takes this much time. This is what my team needs to look like. It's also going to inform all of your next level things, like how does an ad campaign work? How does R&D work? How does business development work, right? Product development work. If you know how a business functions, you know how to account for all of those things, right? You know how to plan for all of those things. It's going to drive a lot of that decision-making process. So if we look at this and we say, so here's these layers, it's kind of self-awareness, it's our thinking, and then our business knowledge. Our next, and we develop this as we're developing the business, is our actual process, right? So how does sales work? How does a marketing campaign work? How does product development work? We need to build these processes, and this is what will allow the company to scale and grow, because you can replicate. You can replicate a hiring process because you know that it has these 10 steps, right? But if you can't build this kind of pyramid of information, of pyramid of knowledge and experience, it's very difficult to drop an idea into a system that doesn't exist, right? And this is why when we're talking to people with ideas, we say, hey, let's start out with an idea that's smaller, or let's even go dial it back and let's start by white labeling a product, because we can learn a lot about ourselves, what we want to do, what we like to do, what we're good at, and how a business works without having to really develop a product, right? If we develop a simple product, we can learn these skills. We can learn how a business works, what our business processes should look like. We can improve our skills in our goal setting and improve our skills in our discipline, right? we can become better at a lower risk level, right? If I make something that is that's more manageable, I don't need to waste hundreds of thousands of dollars getting this information. I can build a product, we call these traction products, that our customers still really want, that are still really serve our goals and build our brand, but they're not going to destroy our lives. And this is the big thing. So you have that big idea, and you can be obstinate and say, no idea is worth pursuing if it's not this giant thing, if it's not my idea. And then I know that at that awareness level, you're still stuck, because your idea has nothing to do with your personal goals. It has nothing to do with the thing that you just told me about, financial freedom or time for your family. Why does that, your personal goal, require that idea? It doesn't. Your ego requires that idea. So with self-awareness, you realize that is just inspiration. We're going to set that aside. Maybe we make that product idea, we make it a goal, and then we work how to reverse engineer to get to that, right? Physical products can require hundreds of thousands of dollars to develop and get to market, right? Even something of moderate complexity, just the engineering, the tooling, and initial inventory could easily land you into the six figures to get to market. And that puts those opportunities far outside the bounds of what you'll see in an early stage entrepreneur. And even for an established business, somebody in the 7 or 8 figures, it's still a lot of money, and we want to be right. So if we're going into a new market, let's say that you have a $8 million business and you want to go into a new market, it's probably best to use traction products to gain customers, gain knowledge of that market, and grow to that big cornerstone product, that big idea that you have. So what we want to look at, if you're an engineer and you're coming in, and this is our common avatar, right? I work with a lot of technical people, electrical engineers, software engineers, even mechanical or manufacturing engineers, and they say some of the same things to me over and over again. But the common one is, I went to school because I wanted to design cars, or I wanted to make cool stuff, right? I thought that I would be designing cool things, but all I'm doing is I'm redesigning this thing that was already designed, and I'm just kind of updating this design, or I'm doing this piece of math over and over and over again and designing this little sub system. But I want to design big stuff. I want to design my own stuff. I want to see an idea that I have in my head, and I want to hold it in my hand. And I thought that I would be doing that, and that's why I got a mechanical engineering degree, but that's not what I'm doing. So what they're telling me is their expectation and the reality of being an engineer don't align. I tell them, well, that's perfect, because what you're describing is exactly what an entrepreneur does. So you're going to use those engineering skills, those problem-solving skills, and you're going to turn an idea into a business reality and say, whoa, I don't want to build a business. I want to build a product. I'm like, well, businesses allow me to build lots of products. I've built hundreds of products, and it's because we have a business that builds products. I want, as my personal goal, to build cool stuff, and I want to do it at scale. I want to build millions and millions of dollars worth of cool stuff, and having a business that does that allows me to do it. So I'm trying to create a business engine that allows me to achieve one of my goals, which is to make cool stuff. It's my little personal mission. So we go through this thing, and instantly we'll hit a roadblock, especially with engineers, is because it's a hard discipline, right? There's mathematics, there's science involved. And you look at it and say, hey, I remember in college, I remember what I remember that people failed out of engineering, they went into the business college, right? I know that that's the way that it is. That's easy. Well, it might be an easier degree, but a lot of those people are just going to go to a business and they're going to do just like what you're doing for engineering. They're going to be a little cog in a corporate machine, and they're going to go to mid-management. They're going to be a paper pusher. They're not going to be an entrepreneur. So it might be easy, and their job is easy. The people that take it to the next level and go to one of those top schools, get an MBA, one of those people that drops out of school, starts their own business, they're going to take the hard road. And there's opportunities like that in engineering, but my point is that there's a temptation to look at business knowledge and say, that's easy, I won't worry about that. Or that's something else, that's not for me. And you hit that personal self-awareness layer immediately. And you've created an identity where you're the tech guy, you're the idea guy. And ideas don't get made, right? Products get made, but if you want your idea to go through that full stage and you want everyone to have one of your ideas in hand, or you want to see it in the store shelves, or you want to see it on TV, you have to have a business. All right, so we need to take that identity and say, no, business isn't bad, money isn't bad, marketing isn't annoying, advertising is not annoying. This is how things work. Let's tear that identity. Let's form a new identity from an engineer to an entrepreneur. And here's the things that will serve you, and here's the things that won't serve you. So we talked about that a week or so ago because I deal with this so often. And this is kind of an offshoot of that conversation because engineer to entrepreneur is a really common pathway. We see that engineers are one of the biggest groups of entrepreneurs, especially in the startup world. We see probably the largest single source or background of people in that world is just from hard engineering. So when we take that process, and it's really tempting to say, I want to develop a product, but what we're trying to do is we're trying to go through these layers, and we're trying to say, yes, you have a lot of these mental cognition, these great thinking, algorithms that you've built, these skills that you've built. Here are the things that you don't have. Here's the self-awareness pieces that you don't have. And these are like, people always push back on this. They always push back because it sounds fluffy, right? It sounds like it's woo-woo. This isn't real. I just want to know, like, what's the 1 through 4 steps of developing a product? And we can go through those steps, but then people lose motivation, right? They get sidetracked by other opportunities. They're not able to plan and prioritize their life, or they hit a roadblock and they can't solve that roadblock because they haven't built that discipline layer. So I see this over and over again. I could give you the complete roadmap of how to develop your product and all of the steps. And I could say, hey, I've got great teams that you have access to, so you could build anything that you want. But people inevitably, unless they go through these self-development pieces, unless they go through these woo-woo mindset pieces, something comes up and they say, oh, this happened in my life, so I had to set that aside. Oh, yeah, my mom got sick. This happened. I'm like, okay, that's understandable, but is she still sick? No, I kind of lost this, or, hey, this happened at work and I was feeling a little stressed out and I just set that aside. I'm like, that was 2 years ago, man. What's going on now? And they're like, I'm still pretty stressed out. Okay, let's talk about how we handle these decisions and how we plan our life and how we break things into small, manageable chunks and how we take those wins and we move forward. And that is, like, as a coach, what we're talking about. And it's really interesting to see people that are brilliant, people that have really great ideas and amazing backgrounds just continually falter because of self-awareness and lack of these disciplined skills. So I wanted to talk about them as a system, but you can see how important just those first two things are. I think that we can acquire business skills, right? I think we can see business processes and we can improve them all the time, right? And I think that we should improve them all the time. But if we have a brilliant idea and we drop them into a system where we don't understand what our reason to exist is, and we don't have the ability to keep ourselves in check, on the path, motivated, or making progress, there's no hope. So this is kind of a small window into some of the points that we would talk about in coaching or in, say, the program Innovate. But I think that it's really serious. That's the bottom line of this. Is I started Red Blue Collective because I thought that people needed a process. They needed to see that innovation is a process and there's steps to it and there's ways to mitigate risks. And so we can take ideas and we can move them into products. But I continually saw that was just a piece of the puzzle. That if we had processes, so that's like our fourth stage, people still failed. Why did they still fail? Like, I'm giving them a process from a robust company. I've built hundreds of products. This process works. Hey, this process works. You can follow this process and it works. And they would hit it. And maybe they said, oh, it's because I don't have funding. Okay, let's solve that problem. And then they hit another roadblock, and they hit another roadblock. And I realized that it's not funding, it's not marketing, it's not sales, it's not product development, it's not access to manufacturing. Those are all just needs, right? Our ability to overcome those by finding solutions to them, that's the core problem. The core problem is that they're an excuse hunting machine, right? Or an obstacle finding machine. It's like they have a telescope looking for the reason why things won't work instead of, destroying everything in their path. And so at first I thought it was just a process issue. Then I thought it was a resources issue. And I said, well, you can use my resources. I'll help manage the resources. Then I thought it was a funding issue. And I've continually helped people connect with funding. So now it's like you have funding, resources, and a process for product development. So what's the next thing? And what I've seen is that it goes back every single time to these mindset pieces, self-awareness and these discipline and skills, these two bottom layers over and over and over again. So we're going to focus a little bit more on these in short pieces of content. If you're not following me on Instagram, we do a little photo, and then video post. Posting content there all the time. If you're not following on Facebook, I drop little videos a couple times a week, and they'll just have a little piece meant to push you forward, to motivate you, little tip, a little hack. You should be looking at me on Facebook. So I appreciate you. The End Hype podcast, I have a lot of fun doing it. I'm getting good feedback from people that are listening to it each week. I want to see those numbers. I want to see those numbers spike, guys. If you're listening to this and you're like, I got any level of value from this, anything. If you feel like this is going to help move forward, share it with somebody. That's how we're going to grow. We're going to grow on these boring topics, right? We're going to grow because we're going to actually help people. Yeah, we're giving real information that you can use. Share it with people. If you're an entrepreneur, you have entrepreneur friends, right? Message them. You can listen on all the platforms. Just link them in YouTube. Let's get some people on here. If you have a topic that you'd like me to cover, I get inspiration from you, right? I'm the guy on the forums. I'm the guy that, messages people like, hey, this is the answer to this question. This is this is what I've done in the past. I do Zoom calls with people a couple times a week. We go through what problems they're having. That's how I get topics for the podcast. That's how I get topics for the short videos and for the posts. Like, if you have something and you're like, this would be the unlock, this would be the one thing that would push me forward, that would make me successful, I just want to know how to do this X, right? That's how we came up with the manufacturing roadmap hacks. That's how we came up with the innovation challenges funding hacks, right? Is people just saying, hey, I wish there was a way for me to leapfrog this process, leapfrog this obstacle. And if you actually need this and you're honest, like, I will go do the research, I'll pull something from my experience, or I'll get an industry expert to come on the podcast, come on the YouTube channel and explain everything that they know about X, Y, and Z and push you forward. But all I ask is like, share, and subscribe. That's it, man. So appreciate you. This is the End Hype Podcast. My name is Callie Keene. I'm out.